श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रम् धीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवम् यतीन्द्रप्रवणम् वन्दे रम्यजामातरम् मुनिम् लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भाम् नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यम् अच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणम् प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः।
लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भाम् नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणम् प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्तष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः. We continue with the exposition of the Dvaya Prakaranam. So the first sutra or the Churnika of the Dvaya Prakaranam is as follows. புறம்புண்டானபத்துக்களையடையவாசனையோடே விடுகையும் எம்பெருமானே தஞ்சமென்னிப்பத்துகையும் வேறு தப்பாரின்னு துணிந்திருக்கையும் வேற்றுக்குத் தொரிக்கையும் இருக்கும் நாள் உகந்தருளின நிலங்களிலே பிரவணனாய் குணானுபவ கைங்கரியங்களிலே போர்போக்காகையும் இப்படி இருக்கும் ஸ்ரீ வைஷ்ணவர்களே தமறிந்து கனிந்திருக்கையும் திருமந்திரத்திலும் தயத்திலும் நியத்தனாகியும் ஆச்சாரிய பிரேமம் கருத்திருக்கையும் ஆச்சாரியன் பக்கரிலும் எம்பெருமான் பக்கரிலும் கிருதஜனாய் போருகையும் ஞானமும் விரக்தியும் சாந்தியும் உடையனாயிருக்கும் பரமசாத்விகனோடே சகவாசம் பண்ணுகையும் வைஷ்ணவாதிகாரிக்கு அவசியாபேட்சிதம். As we can see, Swami Pillalokacharya gives a wonderful list of the qualities that a Sri Vaishnava has to possess. It may possess mandatorily or invariably because this is not an optional thing. On the other hand, it's a thing that is to be without any change accepted and followed. So here we have covered the meaning of the first two, namely புறம்புண்டானபத்துக்களை அடைய வாசனையோடே விடுகையும், which means giving up our inclination to enjoy worldly pleasures along with its vasana or inclination, to put it in a nutshell. So we have explained this sufficiently. And the second quality is Emberumanaye Tattanjamin Nippathayum Verundu Tanjam Ingiranine Kadashadapadi Nirupadhika Rakshakanaha Sarveshwaranaye Tanjamaha Svikarike. So, what does this mean? You have to take refuge under the Supreme Lord alone as the protector, and not anybody else or not any other means. So then what happens to the Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga? But when you talk about Sharanagati, we actually lay emphasis on the Charamashloka, or the final verdict given by Lord Krishna in his Bhagavad Gita. And as far as the Shiva Vaishnava Sampradaya is concerned, we also have the Ramacharmashloka and Varahatharmashloka, which are much in line with the same Krishna Charamashloka, which is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are all very much necessary. And the fruits attained by performing prapatti or surrendering unto the Lord will ensure that the fruits of Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga will automatically come to the person who does so. So when you say Sarvadharman Parityajya, give up Jnana Yoga, give up Karma Yoga, give up Bhakti Yoga. So suppose I want to surrender, then I give up Karma Yoga. Means, am I doing it? Am I performing Karma Yoga to give it up? I am not at all performing that. So where is the question of giving up? So suppose somebody is having a habit to drink or something like that. So somebody comes to me and tells, why don't you give up drinking? I will say, I have not even started. I have never drunk in my life. How can I give up? So the question is that directly we approach the Lord as the sole person who can ensure us moksha. It is known as Siddhopaya in Sri Vaishnava parlance. The others are all Sadhyopayas, whereas the Lord is known as Siddhopaya. So that is what is mentioned by Emberumanaye Tanjaminupattuhayum. So I am incapable of performing Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, etc. So there is no question of giving up. I have not even started doing it. Neither can I start because I don't have the capacity to do that. And therefore, directly I go to the Supreme Lord and ask for his refuge and be happy, surrendering or conveying my surrender to him, and to know that, to acknowledge that I have surrendered to him, and also in the, just I go on keeping reassuring myself, I have surrendered to the Supreme Lord and he will protect me. So that is known as Mahavishwasa in Sanskrit. Whether the Lord will protect me or not, that question should never arise in your mind. You should always be thinking that the Lord will protect me by all means. Then have you taken the Lord for granted? It's not like that. So you always say, I have bowed down. You have surrendered. Please protect me. Please protect me. Please protect me. Please protect me. So that is what we saw. Pitaram mataram da puram bundana pattikkalayade vasanayode. Given by giving up all the things. Physically, you may not be able to give up. So that's why I mentioned earlier. When you say Pitaram mataram daran putran bandhun sakhin gurun. Ratnani sanadhanyani kshetrani jagrahanta sarvadharmamsya santyajya. That means, should he give up his father and mother? Should he give up his wife or children? No. Because the Dharma Shastras say that you have to perform your duties towards your family members, towards your friends, towards society, etc. So when you say giving up, it means you should not be bound to them. So you should not be bound by their affection or love. Of course, whatever affection as a normal human being, without being bound, you have to show to them, you have to do it. You have to perform all your duties. But don't have binding or don't have an attachment towards it. So we have to give up the attachment. So I cannot, some person will say, without seeing my wife's face, even for one moment, I cannot survive. Then that is attachment. So there is a lot of difference between attachment and what you call as affection for a person, which is natural. As a human being. You have affection, you have a favorable disposition towards everybody. So give up the attachment towards all worldly things. That's what is being said here. Because you have to understand it in the right spirit. Without understanding it in spirit, if you follow it in letter, then you will land into problems, and you will also land into what is known as Papa Krityas. Therefore, what you say is, what is being said here is that without attachment, do your duty. But at the same time, always what we call as Anusandhana. Just keep on reminding yourself that you are subservient to the Supreme Lord. That is the main aspect that is being mentioned here. So you have Emberumanaye Tanjaminupattuhayam. So you take refuge under the feet of the Lord alone and nobody else. So not other deities also is a corollary of this, what is being mentioned here. Then what does this mean? Manawal Mamni gives a beautiful exposition. Upaya Phalguttamam Uddeshya Durlabhattamam Swakrata Dosha Bhuyastvam Adiyahavara Param Shankatrema Vinnike Hanantapamal Siddhikyavinne Vishwasittirikkai. So, Pere Tapparinne Tumindirikkai. What does this mean? Phalam Tappamal Siddhikyavinne Vishwasittirikkai. You are totally confident that you will attain moksha. But there are three impediments or three aspects that may come in this way. For to overcome that, what should you do? Upaya phalbutvam, uddeshya durlabhatvam, swakrita dosha bhuyastvam. So what is meant by upaya phalbutva? So suppose I convey my surrender to the Supreme Lord once. I need not do it again and again and again. Of course, we Sriman Narayana Charanam Sharanam Prapadye, we say Prapadye, 10,000, 15,000 times we may say. Because Dvayam Arthanusandhanena Saha Sada Evam Vatta. That's what Lord Ranganatha ordered Ramanujacharya in the end of Sharanagati. Always keep on doing Anusandhana or continuous chanting, continuous mental chanting along with the meaning. Dvayam artha anusandhanena saha sada evam. Though you say prapadye, I have surrendered, the aspect of surrender happens only once. The exact process of surrender happens only once. Afterwards, it is just continuance of that. Because one need not perform prapatti more than once. That's what is mentioned here. Kartavyam sakridevahanta kalusham sarvam tato nashyati brahmeshadi sudurlabham padamapi praptyam mayadragiti vishwasa pratibandha chintanamidam pariyasyatim rangadhisha ramapatitva subhagam Narayanatvanchavai. Very beautiful shloka. Kartavyam sakrideva. So I think this is from the Srirangaraja-stava of Parashara Bhattar. If I am mistaken, you may kindly let me know. So what does he say here? So the Upaya Phalgutva is well defined. And he says, Kartavyam sakrideva hanta kalusham sarvam tato nashyati. So one has to perform prapatti or surrender only once. Even Vedanta Deshika says the same thing. Prayah prapadane pumsam paunah punyam nivarayanni hasta shriranga bhartur mamavyad abhayamudrita. This mudra, which is generally common to all Vishnu deities who are in the standing posture or the sitting posture. This is known as Abhaya Mudra. Abhaya Mudra means what? Do not fear, I am there. That's what this Mudra conveys. Abhaya, Bhaya means fear. Abhaya means absence of fear. So when you see this Mudra, it means the Lord is conveying his intention that he is there to protect you. So that's why Parashara Bhattacharya says, Kartavyam sakrideva, you have to perform the process of surrender only once. Hanta harishe anukampaya. The word hanta is used when a meaning or a sense of happiness or compassion is to be conveyed. kalusham sarvam tato nashyati. Even by performing surrender once, all the sins will get washed away. And then what happens? Brahmeshadi sudurlabham padamapi prapyam maya dragiti. With what intention I have to do this prapatti? That I will attain the divine abode of the Lord, which is difficult even for great deities like Brahma, Shiva, etc. And with what type of disposition should we do it? Vishwasa pratibandha chintanamidam paryasyatinyasyataam. So always I think, yes, my Supreme Lord Ranganatha will protect me, he will protect me, he will protect me, he will protect me, he will protect me. So with that deep sense of confidence, it is known as Vishwasa or Mahavishwasa. Vishwasa pratibandha chintanamidam paryasyatin yasyatam. So then, this is actually the way that the mental disposition has to be of a person who has surrendered to the Supreme Lord. Then what happens? Rangya rangadhisha ramapatitva subhagam narayanatvam tava. So this is what it mentions. Then you become the recipient of the grace of the consort of Rama, that is the Supreme Lord Narayana, who is also known as Ranganath. So Swami Manavalama in the shloka has been explained here. Kartavyam sakradeva prapatti orukal pannapaduvadam anta tata sarvam kalusham nashyati. Adanale sarvamayirakira virodhenam nashikkiradam. Brahmeshadi sudurlabham padamavi maya drag prapyam. Brahmeshadihalukkum மிகவும் துர்லபமாக இருக்கிற பரமும் என்னாலே சீக்கிரமாக பிராபிக்கப்படுகிறதாம். இதீதம் விஸ்வாச பிரதிபந்த சிந்தனம் என்கிற இந்த விஸ்வாசத்துக்கு விரோதியான நினைவை ஹே ரங்காதீஷா யஸ்யதாம், உன்னிடத்திலே சர்வநியாசம் சர்வபரநியாசம் பண்ணுகிறவர்களுக்கு ரமாபதித்வ சுபகம் தவ நாராயணத்துவம் பரியஸ்யதி. ஸ்ரீயப்பதித்வத்தாலே அழகியதாயிருக்கிற தேவரீருடைய நாராயணத்துவம் போகா நிற்கிறது என்றபடி. So this is the meaning of the shloka which I have just explained. Therefore, upaya phalgutvam uddeshya durlabhatvam swakrita dosha bhuyastvam adiyahavaram varum shankatremam innike. So upaya, these are the three aspects. Upaya phalgutva, that is the greatness of the upaya, namely prapatti. Then uddeshya durlabhatva, because he says brahmeshadi sudurlabham paramati, the abode of the Lord, which is very difficult to obtain even for great deities like Brahma and Shiva, etc. And then swakrita dosha bhuyastvam. So this jivatma, that is we ourselves, we have committed so many sins until now. We don't know how many sins we have committed. And generally when we are committing the sins, we don't realize what we are doing is a sin. So suppose I will just give an ordinary example. I will see a dog that is sleeping in front of my house on the street. So I will take a stone and hit it, and it will experience some pain and it will just run away with a shriek. So as soon as I see that it is running away with a shriek and it has experienced some pain, I may derive some pleasure. So when we were young and we did not know that we should not trouble others, and some boy who is elderly to me does that thing, I will also follow that without knowing the implications. So it's a sinful act because that dog has not done anything bad to you. So when you just take a stone and hit it with a stone and it experiences pain, automatically the sin will come to you. But we actually feel, oh, we laugh at it, see how I have hit that dog and it let out a shriek. So the boys will talk among themselves, and they'll see they want that person who has done it will feel so proud about it. So just I am giving a very ordinary example. So when we do that, we don't know that it's a sinful act, and we also don't know its implications. So once what happened was I was sent to a grocery shop. And the grocery shop, in those days, you did not have all these computers. So I purchased some groceries, and when the shopkeeper totaled all the groceries in a manual way, he actually had wrongly calculated, and I paid 75 rupees less than what I have. Then I came home and I told my father, and so many people were there at home, and I told, today I have an achievement. I have saved 75 rupees because the grocery shop owner has done a mistake while totaling the amounts. So 75 rupees he has saved today. So it's a big achievement. My father slapped me and said, no, go there and tell him that you have paid 75 rupees less and you pay that amount and come back. So because you are not supposed to cheat, and my Acharya also used to tell me, you will become indebted to him, and for that purpose alone, you may have to take one more janma or one more birth just to repay the debt that you owe him due to you are cheating him in an indirect way. So these type of sins we don't know, we feel so proud to commit, but actually they will affect us in the long run, either in the same birth or during the next birth or during the subsequent births. When one very, very, very important aspect about the importance of God in imparting karma phala. This is very important. That's why I want to, though it's not pertinent to the context, I want to mention about this thing. Many a times we feel, for example, I have performed so many karmas in my past deeds and even in this life. So I am bound by those karmas, and therefore I have to undergo the fruits, whether they are in the form of punya or papa, which will result in happiness or misery. But what is the role of God in this entire thing? So the question is, I am bound by my karma, and each of us are bound by our own karmas, but by the Lord is bound by all our karmas. Because there are so many, if you take this earth alone, there are 800 million human beings, 8 billion human beings. So if the Lord has to give the fruits of all the human beings at a particular time, he is bound by all the karmas of all persons. So you can imagine how difficult it is to maintain the account of 8 billion people. So we all have our karma account, which is recorded in our psyche. If you put it in a modern language, what you call as the psyche, all the karmas that from the beginning, from this jivatma that is residing in my body, from the time it's separated from Paramatma, all the karmas are recorded in this. You may call it in the DNA or something like that. For all people, irrespective of their nationality or caste, creed, sex, etc. Whether it's a male or female, old or young, Indian, American, African, etc. So the Lord has the unenviable task of maintaining the records of all these persons. So is it not a pity that he is bound by all the karmas of all persons, whereas I am bound by my karma only? So is it not that the Lord is in a very pitiable state? This is the question raised. The answer to this is twofold, very important aspect. He is known as Karmadhyaksha. So he is not bound by any of these, all the karmas, because he is the Karmadhyaksha. He is the person who decides the rules, and he has full freedom in it. So he does not actually, he is not bound by any of the karmas of all of us, because he has total discretion in doing what he wants. That is why my Acharya used to quote one school of Shaiva Darshana. It's called Lakulisha Pashupata Darshana. So let us not worry about the Shaiva Vaishnava aspect here. But he used to say that point is very much correct. When you say God gives fruits according to the karmas, how can you say that? He is totally independent. He is totally free to what he wants to do. So he will act according to his wish only and not according to your karmas. But if he doesn't give the fruits of each person's karma, then it will result in total chaos. That question is raised. So the answer is, yes, this is also true, that is also true. There are several exceptions when the God actually can waive off any karma. That is one very important aspect. He has total control over the karmas. He has total discretionary powers, as we call it in government language in India. When an officer is appointed, or when there is a senior officer or a judge, he has the discretion to reduce the, suppose the person has committed a crime and he is brought before the judge. The judge has the discretionary powers. That is, law gives him the powers to decide whether he wants to give 7 years imprisonment, 4 years imprisonment, 3 years imprisonment. So that's what the law will say, up to 7 years imprisonment. So the maximum imprisonment that he can be subjected to is 7 years. But actually, how much is he subjected to, that the judge will decide. Similarly, he is the supreme judge. So he can decide how much of the fruits of each karma should be given to us, and he is deciding it. And second, very, very important aspect is, he also decides when to give the fruits of which karma. That is very, very important. So my Acharya used to say, if God wants to save some person, he can, of course, waive off all the karmas, but generally he doesn't do, because he also doesn't want to transgress the rules he himself has framed. But what he does is, suppose a person has to undergo a severe ailment or a disease. So, suppose a person is 90 years old. So when he is about to pass away, the God will give him that karma also, the fruits of that karma also. So he cannot experience any pain. Let us say he is in a coma state or something like that. Then Lord will give him the fruits of that, some karma, which he doesn't even know that he is enjoying the fruits of that. So he can combine the karmas, he can actually divide them or do whatever he wants. Because giving the fruits of karma is totally under the discretion of the Supreme Lord. So he is not bound by that. He is totally independent. And he is the person who calls the shots. So he can keep in abeyance certain. My Acharya used to use the word, he will keep it in suspense. We have a suspense accounting where we do accounting. So 500 rupees is received from some unknown source. So the auditor will say, please keep it in the suspense account. We will see that. Like that, the Supreme Lord can actually keep the fruits of any karma pertaining to a Jivatma in a suspense account. he can keep it in abeyance, and then in some other birth he may actually give the fruits of results of those karmas which we have to undergo. So while we actually talk to the astrologers in India, the genuine ones, they will say Purva Punya Sthana is very good. So you will not undergo such a difficulty in your life. So in the previous birth, you have fed many people. So in this birth, you will never struggle for food. God has ensured that you will have enough food during your entire lifetime. That's what they will say. So some of these aspects are actually verifiable to a certain extent from what is happening, not that whether we have committed such a karma or not, but from the experiences that we have in life. We can say, yes, this is happening. But once again, all these rules have exceptions, because we come across such statements also. When we meet some astrologers, they will say, as per your birth chart or horoscope, you are not supposed to have this happiness, but it is due to the grace of the Lord that you are having this happiness. Like this, there are several aspects, but why I mentioned is the Supreme Lord can keep in abeyance the bestowing of the fruits of any particular karma, and he can give it at the time that he wants it to be given, not according to the whims and fancies of the jiva. It is he alone who actually decides, and that also is not known to us. So we are totally in the dark. So what we do is, what we can do, what is in our hands is, just always say, I am surrendered to you, protect me. I am surrendered to you, protect me. I am surrendered to you, protect me, and nothing else. So this is what is without any hesitation. Always do the anusandhana. I don't know what is the right word for the word anusandhana. It is constantly experiencing the realization that you are subservient, you are surrendered to the Supreme Lord. So that is what is known as the next characteristic a Vaishnava has to, a Sri Vaishnava has to possess mandate release. இப்படி விஸ்வசித்து பேரு சித்தித்த போது காண்கிறோம் என்றிருக்க எண்ணிக்கே மாகவை குந்தன் காண்பதற்கென்மேக வேண்டும் என்னும் தாவிவையும் கொண்ட கடந்தாமரை ஹெழ்கே கூவிக்கொள்ளும் காலமின்னும் உருகாலோ என்கிறபடியே கிரமப்பிராப்தி பத்தாமல் பதருகை. So I am not familiar with these two Upashanams. I will explain this in the next class because I have some doubt. Aha, இவை இரண்டாலும் உபாயோபேயாதிகாராபேட்சிதங்களான மகாவிஸ்வாசத்தையும் பிராப்தியத்தரையும் சொல்லுகிறது. So these two aspects convey the aspect of Mahavishwasa, total confidence in the Supreme Lord that he will protect us. And the second one is Prapyatvarai. This is very, very important. What is Prapyatvarai? Prapyatvarai literally means I want to reach the abode of the Lord as early as possible, as soon as possible. When will the Lord take me? When will the Lord take me? When will the Lord take me? That doesn't mean that he should. Since we have accepted in our Siddhanta or Vishishtadvaita philosophy that complete liberation is possible only after we leave the body. Thus, in the Advaita philosophy, they coin a term called Jivan Mukta. a person who has been liberated but still continues to live. But my Acharya used to tell me that we accept that there exists such a state, but we don't accept the coinage of the world. It's very important, that's why I'm telling this. So Jivan Mukta is a mutually contradictory world. It's like he is telling a false truth or true falsehood or something like that. So you cannot use such a word because these two words are mutually contradictory. So when you say Jivan, he cannot be Mukta. When you say Mukta, he cannot be Jivan. Because Jivan means what? According to Sanskrit language, Jivan means Jiva Pranadharane. Jivan means he possesses pranas in his body. And he possesses a physical body. Mukta means liberated. So until you have a body, how can you become liberated? Because the karmas that you have committed, whether it is prarabdha karma or whatever it is, because according to the philosophy of Ishtadvaita or the philosophy of the Vedas, a person cannot overcome what is known as prarabdha karmas. Karmas are divided into three: prarabdha, sanchita, and agami. Prarabdha karma means those karmas that have started yielding the fruit to a person. So you cannot stop that. So they say prarabdha karmanam anubhavena kshiya. You can overcome the effect of prarabdha karmas only by experiencing the fruits of those karmas. Whereas sanchita karma is that karma that you have accumulated over several hundreds of births. Those karmas, those sanchita karmas or accumulated karmas can be washed off by the vision of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, agami karmas, if you perform some karmas without your knowledge, good or bad, or with knowledge, they will, because once you have the vision of the Supreme Lord or have the Brahma Sakshatkara, you cannot engage in bad deeds. But unknowingly, if you commit some bad deeds also, they will not affect you. They will not actually have any effect on you. So prarabdha karmas are those karmas that actually have started yielding fruit and those that are presently yielding fruit until the body sustains life within itself. Therefore, Jivan and Mukta are two different, mutually contradictory words. But we accept the state that he is ready for liberation. But there is a small iota of karma that is preventing it, which he will actually have to experience and then do away with that karma, and then he is ready for, he goes to liberation, he attains moksha. So this is what is mentioned when he says, Uprapya tvarayam shanduhiradi. Prapya tvaray means, when will the Lord accept? When will the Lord accept? When will the Lord accept? Always you should be having that tvara, experiencing the, you should be so much inclined, and also you should be have a sense of urgency. Tvara is urgency. So you may not think, oh, I am so young, or I am not very old, so why should I think about moksha? No. That doesn't mean that you want to give up your body, but at the same time, you also don't want to see to it that you will take some more births, or let another 10 births come. I would like to enjoy the pleasures of life. No. Then you don't have tvara. So the tvara is very, very important. That's what he says. Prapya tvareyam shanduhiradi. Once again, we have to take a very balanced view in these things, because generally in the discourses that are in popular discourses that are given by the persons, scholars, they will not say, give a balanced view, because they will just focus on anything, but they will not say practically what you have to do. Or if the question comes, what do you do in this regard? They will not entertain such questions. They will not even allow such questions to be asked or answered. Because it becomes a very difficult proposition. Because if you ask me now, you are giving a lecture on Mumuksupadi, how much of it are you following? It becomes a big problem. So I may have the modesty or sincerity to say, really, I am not following. Then if you are not following, how do you preach? So practice what you preach is generally the adage that goes in English language. So these are very difficult questions. And also when you say prapyatvara, the urgency to attain the Supreme Lord, that means attaining the Supreme Lord means giving up the body. So are you envisaging that you should have an early death? The question arises. So these are very difficult questions to answer practically. But the aspect that is to be noted here is that you should ultimately engage in the experience of the Lord and leave it to Him. In that aspect also you should have surrender or surrender. I have totally surrendered to the Lord. When He is going to take me, I leave it to Him. I will not even ask to give it tomorrow itself or take me tomorrow or day after tomorrow or today or after. Give me 550 years more of life. No. Though you want to experience the divine as early as possible, you say, that also I leave it to Lord because I have surrendered to Him. So when He has to give, He will decide, not me. So these are the issues mentioned in this by these characteristics. Then இறைக்கும் நாள் உகந்தருளது நிலங்களிலே பிரவணனாய் போர் குணானுபவ கைங்கரியங்களிலே போர் போக்காகையாவது பரமபதத்திலே போய் பகவதனுபவ கைங்கரியங்களை பண்ணுகையாகிற பேற்றில் துவரை நடவாதிருக்கச் செய்தேயும் இச்சரீரத்தோடே இருக்கும் நாள் தான் உகந்த ஊர் என்கிறபடியே சர்வேஸ்வரன் உகந்து வர்த்திக்கிற திவ்ய தேசங்களிலே கண்ணியோர் அரங்கமையா கச்சிபேர் மல்லை என்னும் மண்டுகையாகிற பிராவண்யத்தையுடைய நாய் அவ்வோ திவ்ய தேசங்களிலே நிற்கிறவனுடைய கல்யாண குணானுபவம் அதடியாக கரணத்திரயத்தாலும் அவன் விஷயத்திலே பண்ணுகிற கைங்கரியமுமே காலக்ஷேபமாம்படி இருக்கை. So Swami Manavana Mamuni himself raises this question and answers in a very nice manner. So he says, பரமபதத்திலே போய் குணானுபவ கைங்கரியங்களிலே கைங்கரியங்களை பண்ணுகையாகிற பேற்றில் தடவாதிருக்கச் செய்தேயும் துவரை நடவாதிருக்கச் செய்தேயும் இச்சரீரத்தோடே இருக்கும். So though there should be a sense of urgency in attaining the abode of the Supreme Lord and performing all the types of kainkariams or servitudes there, irukkum naal, until he has this body, he possesses this body, what should he do? Avvo divya deshangalile irkira avanuடைய கல்யாண குணானுபவம். So the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya gives great prominence to the Archa form, because that is the most easily approachable form that a human being has towards the Supreme Lord. So it says, Sakala Manuja Nayana Vishayatangataha Murti Visheshaha. So the iconic form that can be seen and enjoyed, revered, meditated upon by all human beings by their external eye, not the internal eye. So the internal eye is definitely required where a person experiences the divine form of the Lord. But that is not easy. So what is the easiest way to perform Kainkariya or service to the Supreme Lord. It is to the Archa form or the iconic form. So, Uhanda Arulina Nilangal is what is known as Divya Desha. What does that mean? The Supreme Lord himself has taken a fancy to that particular chosen site and he resides in that iconic form. So that is what is known as Uhanda Arulina Nilangal. The form that the Supreme Lord has by his own will, by his own sweet will, he has attained that form and resides in those Divya Deshas. That is 106 plus several sthalas, several Acharya Abhimana sthala we call them. So these 106 are in this world and 2 are in the divine world, namely the Kshira Samudra and Parapada, that is Vaikuntha and the Milky Ocean. And apart from them, there are several Divya Deshas, like Tirunarayanpuram, Rajamannarkudi. Rajamannarkudi near Tanjavur is a place where you have a very, very wonderful icon of Lord Rajagopala, who is Krishna only, but he is known as Rajagopala. Gopala means Krishna, none other than Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord who is in the form of a Gopala or protector of cows, as Lord Krishna was. So that Rajagopala is not sung by any Alvar, but Swami Manavala Mamuni went there and he actually worshipped that Lord. So we consider it as equal to a Divya Desha. Similarly, in Tirunarayanapuram or Melkote, where I am residing now, it was reconsecrated by Ramanujacharya. And he actually said, even though Nammalvar has not directly sung this Divya Desha, I will offer these pashrams or stanzas that Nammalvar has sung to this Tirunarayana. That's why he says, Tirunarayananthal Kalam Tirat. He quotes the direct name Tirunarayana, which is the name of the presiding deity of Melkote or this divine Kshetra. So these are the chosen sites, and a person should reside in these chosen sites. But one more question may arise then, what about the new temples that are consecrated? So in the Agama Sampradaya, in the Pancharatra Agama Sampradaya, we call it as Shatari Parigraha. Since Keshavadas ji is an expert in these things, who knows several of these aspects, I am mentioning them. Suppose you open a new temple, you consecrate a new temple in Mysore, let us. So then what will they do? They will bring the Shatari or the iconic mount, that conical mount that signifies the divine feet of the Lord. So they will actually have the Pratishtha Vidhi done in Tirunarayanapuram or Melkote or any Divya Desham and then bring it there. So that way we call it as Divya Desha Sambandha. So the Shatari will be consecrated in the main temple in Melkote, for which there is a procedure. That Shatari will be brought and placed in the new temple that is consecrated. So the relationship between the Divya Desha and the new temple is established. So since it is associated with that Divya Desha, the temple becomes very sacred. So this is how, suppose there is a new temple constructed near Srirangam, they will do it from Srirangam. So whichever is the nearest Divya Desha, or which is very close to the person who has done the new consecration, he will go to that temple and place a Shatari there. Then it will be consecrated as per the Agama Shastra rules. And that Shatari will be brought to the new temple and then it will be used there for blessing the people. That way, new temples also become equal to the Divya Deshas because they have something physical that is connected to the Divya Desha. So these are all nuances. So when a new temple is consecrated and some elderly person visits, they will ask, have you done Shatari Parigraha? Has the Divya Desha Sambandha come? Has the relationship with the old chosen site come to this temple? Then they will take the Tirtham Prasadam, etc. They will partake. Otherwise, they may not do it because that is the tradition that Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya has. So, Avvo Divya Deshangalile Nirkiravanudiya Kalyana Gunanubhavam. So, the unique qualities of the deity who resides or deities who reside in those chosen sites are Divya Deshas. Then, not only enjoying the qualities, but Adadiyaha Karanatrayattalum Avan Vishayatil Pannuhira Kainkaryamum. So we call it as three karanas, kayena, vata, manasa, by our body, by our speech, and also by our mind. So these are called as the three karanas, the three most important means for us to perform any task. So the mind, the body, and the speech. So we call it as kayena, vata, and manasa. So these are known as the karanatraya or trikarana. Adadiyaha karanatrayatvalum avan vishayatil pannuhira kainkaryam. So you may do acha kainkarya, you may chant the divya prabandhas, you may chant the stotra works, you may chant the ashtakshara mantra, dvaya mantra, etc. That is the vacha kainkarya. Then you may perform several kainkaryas or services through this body. You may offer tulasi. You may offer, you may actually carry the palanquin of the Supreme Lord, of the deity presiding there. You may offer some flowers. You may offer a flower garland. You may offer some fruits. Or if you are qualified and if it is possible for you, you may prepare different wonderful dishes and offer it to the Lord and distribute it among the devotees. These are all the kainkaryas or services that can be performed by means of our body. And most important is performing all these kainkaryas mentally. So you can just sit and just you can go on imagining all the different kainkaryas that you want to do the Supreme Lord. So you can do it by mentally, you can do it physically, or you can do it in the form of speech. You will say, I will chant Purusha Suktam in front of the Lord, nothing more than that I can do. Fine. So without expecting any result, purely as a Bhagavad Kainkarya or as a service to the Lord, you can do anything that you want to do that pleases Him. So we say in Shiva Vaishnava Sampradaya, we say Bhagavan Mukhollasartham. To elicit the smile or to elicit a smile in the divine form, the face of the Lord. That is what we do. That means you are pleasing the Lord. So, Avan Vishayatil Pannuhira Kainkaryamume Kalakshepa Vishayamam Badirikai. So that is how you should actually spend your time. Kalakshepa is spending time. So people say, how do you spend time? To give a very mundane example, when we are traveling in a train in India, for example. So there will be some of these street hawkers. They will bring small dishes. They will bring some peanuts. So it's when you travel from Mysore to Bangalore in a train, they will say time pass kadleka. Kadleka means peanuts. So it's time pass peanuts. That means you feel bored when you are traveling continuously or traveling for a long time. So then what do? When people don't have anything to do, they will try to have something to eat. So they'll say this is time pass kadlaka in the train. The hawkers will say that. So just you have to while away your time, just do it by eating these peanuts, and they will sell peanuts for 5 rupees or 2 rupees and go. So that is Kalakshepa, because you cannot do any, of course you can read or write or do several things. But ultimately you have to spend your time and wait for the call of the Lord when you have to leave this body, which is definitely going to happen one day or the other. So until then, you engage in some sort of service unto the Supreme Lord, whether it is mental, whether it is physical, or whether it is in the form of speech. So this is one very important characteristic of a model Sri Vaishnava. So that's what he says. This. So the next characteristics. Next in the list is Ippadirakkum Shri Vaishnavarhane Tamarindu, etc. That we will do in the next class.
So Swami, I was just, you were saying we should do the property as soon as possible. So,
Yes.
but we see practically that there's a system especially with Vadagalai Sri Vaishnavas. They say that the Baranyasam is the actual property, and they put it off until very late in life. Whereas in the Tenacharya Sampradayam, they tend to think that the property occurs, or the external form of the property occurs at the Samashrinam itself, at the Panchasamskara, so which is done earlier. But we know that the property from the Charmasloka, the word Vraja indicates a mental thing. So it means that actually the realization that we are surrendered to the Lord is the real property. So even before the external Samashrinam and Panchasamskara, if somebody gets the feeling that they are surrendered to God, that is the real property. And we didn't see we didn't see Gajendra, we didn't see Draupadi, we didn't see Vibhishana actually doing Panchasamskara or Samashrinam or even Varanyasam. So there's these external rituals, and then the internal understanding. But why would we put off the external? The internal may happen at any time, but why would we put off? Why would we put off the external, which is the show?
So in Vadagalai Sampradayam, several physical rules and do's and don'ts are laid down for a person who has done Bharanyas. Though it was applying, it used to apply from day one, that is from the time a person becomes aware of himself. Say probably by the age of 8, 12 or 14 or something like that. Because at the age of 5 or 6 or 7, generally children don't know what they are doing. And they are not aware of the do's and don'ts unless the parents train them in a very systematic manner. So they will somehow eat, they will not properly wash their hands, they are not fully aware of their personal hygiene and things like that. So in some traditions, in the Vadagalai Sampradayam, they say once you do Bharanyasa, you should not have onion and garlic. As I said, these are all general rules only. But if you have not been able to follow them while you were young or until now, at least hereafter you please follow. So don't have onion and garlic, don't drink coffee or tea or any intoxicating drinks, or don't do this, don't do that, don't have food in hotels, because some persons who are totally unaware of any of the spiritual aspects, they cook. So these are the rules laid down for those who perform prapatti as a ritual. And secondly, the point of view from which they say it should be done after a certain amount of time is, you should have gained some maturity to realize the greatness of prapatti. So suppose you do, according to them, if you do it when the boy is 8 or 9, nowadays it is being done like that only. What do you know about prapatti? How can you know? See, to understand the very complicated concept, it requires some mental maturity. So without having that maturity, it becomes a mere ritual, as it has become in most of the cases. So even Samashrinam, now I had it when I was 10, I think. But did I really realize the greatness of it at that time, or even now, how to what extent I have realized it? It's a big question mark. Therefore, why they insist that it should be done it should be done after a considerable amount of time in his life has elapsed, is that he should realize the maturity, he should have that maturity and realize the greatness of prapatti and then do it rather than doing it as a mere ritual. And secondly, he should be at least following some aspects, because these also are very meaningful rules. Don't eat onion and garlic. Why? There are several aspects associated with it which we need to discuss, but main thing is this is tamasahara. So, for example, we knew of a Swamiji who belonged to this Veerashaiva philosophy. And we used to have some interaction with him in our college, because there are people who belong to that sect also in our college. And he used to specifically tell me, in Veerashaiva philosophy, there is a rule that as a rule you should actually consume onion and garlic. They have written a Purana called Irulli Purana, which means onion Purana. Because in some context, a person who was the devotee of Shiva, he is censured by another person for eating garlic, onion and garlic. So actually, it is there in every religion. So you should not actually censure a real devotee of the Lord just because he has done something bad from others' point of view. Ultimately, real devotion is what matters rather than some physical practice. So we have people who have bad character, but they have a lot of devotion towards the Lord, and the Lord accepts them. So he says, it is my will, who are you to ask? So in the Veerashaiva tradition, consuming of onion is not only not prohibited, it is actually recommended, because it is based on this particular story. It's a long story, I will not go into. But this person who used to be associated with me, he used to tell, see, in our tradition, they recommend eating onions. But the day I eat onions, my mind doesn't work at all. I feel so bad on that day. That's why I have almost stopped taking onions, even though all my fellow Veerashaivas do that. So I will just say, no, I am not doing well, or it's not conducive to my health, so I will not do it. So basically, because it is tamasahara, and once you have this tamasic and rajasic instincts, hinder the process of meditation or japa or whatever it is. So the reason is quite understandable. It's not something to do. In English, they say it's not rocket science. So people can understand this easily. And they are good for health also. Of course, onion has some qualities according to Ayurveda, but it has also been prohibited. So there was a big debate, or there is a big debate in the Ayurveda works. What about this onion and garlic, whether it should be consumed or not? So they have given a very wonderful verdict in this regard. As a food, it is to be avoided at all costs. As a medicine, it is permissible, not ordained or not prescribed. It is permissible to have it purely as a medicine if there is no other option. So this is what. So therefore, they actually, because my Acharya used to say, so even in the Vadagalai Sampradayam, many people in those days used to say, no, let him practice all the Sri Vaishnava tenets and let him become a little bit pakwa, it means mature, so that then let the Bharanyasa let it be done. So that is in the Vadagalai Sampradaya. In Tannacharya Sampradaya, we say that is, don't make it a separate ritual. That's why he said, Prapatte Upayatum Nasti. This is one of the bones of contention between the two Sampradayas. So don't make it a ritual as such, because it is not something that can be done based on a ritual. It's a mental state of mind, and that is done, included in the Samashrayana itself. Therefore, you concentrate on the mental disposition that you should have as a prapanna, rather than converting it into a ritual. But whether you do it as a ritual or whether you don't do it, ultimately with the spiritual state of your mind is what really matters.
So I understand that there may be maybe people want people to be more serious, and they don't want people to commit any Vaishnava apachara or
Yes, all those things are
also,
there.
yes, or also go to Anya Devatas, worship of Anya Devatas, and this may all occur in the life, and when people are retired and they are mature in their mind, they can concentrate on having
Yes.
satvik and all these things.
Yes, yes.
And this is big,
Yes,
and therefore they won't commit any apacharas, they won't commit any offenses. But then they say, even if we may commit offenses even after Bharanyasam, and we perform the Prayaschitta property. So the question is, Prayaschitta property cannot be a property because already we did the property. Property is only done once, as you said. Even everybody accepts that. So Prayaschitta, I understand Prayaschitta. But why do they say Prayaschitta property? Because Prayaschitta property cannot be a type of property because property is
where
only
is it
once.
mentioned? No? I have not heard in which work is it been mentioned.
No, it's not. I don't know if it's mentioned in any work, but Dr. Tirunarayan uses the term quite often, Prayaschitta property, that after Bharanyasam, if we
just ask him in which work it is mentioned, because even I would like to know the source. Because generally, without having the source, we should one will not be in a position to comment on it. Because I have not heard the word Prayaschitta property being mentioned in any work specifically. Of course,
right.
Not that I have studied all the works, but you please ask him and get me.
No, in any case, it looks very much like there is an argument amongst Christians whether somebody should be baptized as a baby or whether somebody should be baptized in the old age, and not old age, but mature age. That somebody should grow up and he should learn about the scriptures and then he can be admitted to the church. So, but then at the end of life, they do a thing called last rites, that the priest will absolve all of the sins at the time of death, on the deathbed. So this seems to be the system also with Sri Vaishnavas, that at the time of death, there is some prayer or some idea of absolving the sins that one may or may not have occurred. And Vedanta Deshika in Rahasyatraya Saram says that whatever karmas are left over, the punyas go to your friends and the papas go to your enemies. Can you say something about that idea?
See, what has been said is in the Upanishads, there is a statement. Suhridasvadhu krityam dvishantah papa krityam. But this is with regard to a person who has had Bhagavad Sakshatkara, not all persons. Generally, that aspect is concealed when they say that.
So do we accept someone can have Bhagavad Sakshatkara in this lifetime?
Yes, of course. that is what is mentioned actually. But the people, unfortunately, some scholars of the Ramanuja philosophy, they say that one cannot have Bhagavad Sakshatkara at all in this body according to Ramanujacharya, which is totally incorrect. They say that he says in Sri Bhashya that he uses the word Darshana Samanakaram Jnanam. So, Darshana Samanakara means it's as a person sees an ordinary thing, it is like that. But they interpret it as Darshana Samanakara means it's not Darshana, it's like Darshana. It's not real Darshana at all. That's how they misinterpret it both. So, because subsequently he uses the same, say, he says Darshana Rupatapati, Darshana Rupam, etc. But they interpret it as, now you say virtual reality in the computer parlance. Virtual reality means it is really reality only. But it's not actually, that means when you say virtual reality, it's real reality, but it's not real reality actually. So you are given to understand that it exists. It doesn't really exist. Like that, they interpret the word Darshana Samanaka and say that a person cannot have the Bhagavad Sakshatkara when he is alive, when he is possessing this body, which is totally incorrect. Because then what do we say of the Alvars and several Acharyas who had the vision of the, they say, they were filled with the experience of the Supreme Lord. So how can you say that you cannot have it in this body? It's totally incorrect.
Some people may say this is only Nityas can do this. The Nityas who have come here.
No. Even in the Vaikuntha Gadya, Bhagavad Acharya Ramanujacharya says, he explains the entire existence of Vaikuntha, and ultimately he says, Dhyana Yogena Drishtva. You can verify. It's there in black and white. Not that I am concocting some story. So he was in this body when he actually explained Vaikuntha. Is it not? Otherwise, how could it have emanated from his mouth, and how could they write it? So how can a person experience Vaikuntha? It is through his inner senses. And he was in a state of divine ecstasy or something like that.
So this is the real meaning of Anusandhanam?
Anusandhana means different. Anusandhana means constant chanting, constant, within your mind you do something. Again and again and again you do something. That is not an Anusandhana. But a person cannot have the vision of the Supreme Lord while this body is there. It's totally incorrect. Because Ramanujacharya himself had, otherwise how could he converse with the Lord Ranganatha in Sharanagati Gadya? So every time he says something, it's a dialogue actually. So he says, Lakshmi patehe yatipatehescha dayai kadhamnaha yoso pura samajanishta dimay jagadhitartham praptim prakashaitam paramam rahasyam samvadaha yesha. Samvada means what? Dialogue. So it has happened in real time. So if it has to happen in real time, so how did the Lord tell him? Astu te taye sarvam sampatsate yavat sharirapatam atreva shrirange sukhamas. That means within himself he had the vision of the Lord. Otherwise, how could he actually write it down? So Sharanagati Gadya is in the form of a dialogue. Shrirang Gadya is a continuation of Sharanagati Gadya. And once a person does Sharanagati, what happens to him? He will attain Vaikuntha. What is that Vaikuntha? How is it? He gives a wonderful description. Chaturdasha bhuvanatmakamandam dashagunitottarancha avarana saptakam samastam karya karanajatamatiitya paramavyoma shabdavideye brahmadinam vagmanasa gochare srimati vaikunthe divya loke. Chaturdasha bhuvanatmakamandam, he, as explained in Bhagavata, it's a cosmic egg. It is an egg-shaped, oval-shaped. Egg is always oval-shaped, we know that. So that is consisting of 14 worlds. Then Dashagunito Tarancha Avarana Saptakam. Then 10 times that is, there are 7 Avaranas or 7, what do you call that, 7 coverings. So these are all under the Karya Karana Bhava of the Supreme Lord. That means they come under the cause and effect relationship. That means one is the cause, other is the effect, etc. So beyond all these, beyond this cosmic egg, there is a state. There is a state of existence called Vaikuntha, which is known as Paramavyoma, the supreme ether, which cannot be cognized by Brahma, Shiva, and even so great deities like Brahma and Shiva. They are very great deities. That is why it is mentioned as even they cannot do it. It's not like we are degrading them. One great scholar once, Professor M.A. Venkatakrishnan, who is one of the greatest scholars of Vaishnavism today, or you can say the greatest also. Yeah, why do you say even Brahma and Shiva cannot cognize? That means they are the highest level deities next to Vishnu. Why do you don't say even some minor deity like Manmatha cannot? He is beyond the range of Manmatha or some other Indra or some other ordinary Agni or Vayu, etc. No. They are at the highest exalted positions below Vishnu, and even they cannot cognize. So he says, Brahmadinam Vang Manasa Gochare Srimati Vaikunthe Divya Loke. And then beautifully he explains Divya Varana Shata Sahasravrate Divyakalpakatarupashobhite, Divyodhyana Shatasahasra Koti Bhiravarte. Divine gardens running into 100,000 millions, he says. So my Acharya says, 100,000 million, how much is it? Can anyone, there is no end to it, it's endless. The expanse of Vaikuntha is endless. So he has, how did you see it? How could you actually visualize it? Ramanujacharya, in the end he says, Idam sarvam dhyana yogena drishtva. So by meditating within, I have cognized the entire Vaikuntha. And then ultimately he says, how does the Lord reside? He goes from outside. It's actually a walk-through, if you want to put it in that way today. So you enter a place, then you go, you see this side, you see that side, you go on, go inside, and ultimately the Lord is reside. So all these things, dhyana yoga and drishtva, he says. So even the Vaikuntha Natha or the Lord of Vaikuntha can be cognized by a person who is in this world. He can converse with the Lord with this body, within this body. Anyway. So anything else?
So, I wanted to ask, is it not that we have full faith in Lord Krishna's words in the Charma Shloka that he says, Ma Shuchaha, that Sarva Papebhyo Ma Shuchaha, once we surrender fully to him, that we need not worry about any sinful reactions. So we know that, isn't it that one who does prapati actually does prapati, that the Sanchita karmas as well as the Agami karmas, the Lord dissolves all of that. It's just the Prarabdha karmas. Is that correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Even the Brahma Sutras say the same thing. They say, Tadadhikame Uttara Purvakayoho Ashlesha Vinasho. So Uttaraghasya Ashlesha, Purvaghasya Vinasha. Past karmas will get destroyed. The future karmas will not bind this person in any way.
But this is only if one, so like for instance, you were mentioning about doing those who do the ritual of prapati. So, Samasranam. So you may have some that may have taken Samasranam at a young age and then didn't continue with it, and probably didn't have the good fortune of being able to learn and become deeper and understand. Would you not say that even still at that point, they have done even external prapati, that would still give the effect? Would you not say so?
It means, will the prapati have an effect on the Jivatma or not, even if he is not following the principles? Is that your question?
Yes, exactly.
No, what will happen is it will not be wasted in any case. So when a person becomes, when he actually starts behaving according to according to how a prapanna has to behave, then it will automatically bring him back. So the philosophy, the spirit behind our philosophy is that whether it is samashayanam or bharanyasam, ultimately one day or the other he will come back, even if he has given up everything and he does not do any, he does not perform anything that a Vaishnava has to perform. Then also it will not be wasted. One day or the other he will come back. That is how we believe.
But that might mean another lifetime also, isn't it?
That might be. But that is not the hardcore Sri Vaishnava view. Hardcore Sri Vaishnava view is once you have Samashanam, immediately you will have moksha.
Near
But my Acharya used to say it's not so easy. Ultimately, he will be brought to the right track and he has to do all those things and then only he will get it.
Okay, because you're saying that ultimately he will get it.
Due
Yes.
course. So my Acharya used to say, yes, unless you are totally pure, your Atma cannot go to Vaikuntha. So it may not be a process of just doing like this and sending you to Vaikuntha. That's what my Acharya used to say. But the general, while they tell in the discourses and other things, if you have Samashanam, that's it. Your seat is reserved in Vaikuntha. That's what they will say. That means you have the you have acquired the basic qualification, but you have to consummate it. That is very important. What they say is not correct, not incorrect, but certain processes, it's like telling you do a course in medicine, you can mint money. You can earn a lot of money, they say. So that doesn't mean every person who has completed a course in medicine earns a lot of money. So he has to undergo so many things. He has to be a good doctor. He has to have good-natured. He should be good-natured. He should not be short-tempered. He should be very enterprising. So many things are there. So what it means is, it's like telling a young boy, if you study medicine or if you become an engineer, you can earn a lot of money. There are so many other classes that are to be added. But in the beginning, to get the interest of the boy, to say, you can earn a lot of money if you study this or do this. It is in that spirit that we have to understand.
And also with respect to the prarabdha karmas, we can't wipe them out because the prarabdha karmas is actually manifest karmas of the body that we have right now. Yes. But some people think, especially like you, that they will say, well, you can do this and that will make it better. Is that just a lie? Well, some will say, like, for instance, if they go to astrologers, etc., jyotishis, they will give some, maybe some remedies for bad karma, that you're going through a bad planetary period and things like that. But is that actually that can actually be altered? Can you actually make your prarabdha karma better in this life? Like, for instance, you're supposed to really suffer in a certain way and you do something to make it better.
They don't assure you. They will say you can try this remedy. If God wills, it happens.
Okay, so... And
so once again, it's in the hand of God. That's all. You cannot. And how do you know that? That also you cannot know. See, the higher and higher or deeper and deeper we think, we realize that we cannot know anything about this or our karmas or anything like that. So we should know, the moment we know our ignorance, that is where evolution starts. So deeper and deeper and deeper you go on thinking, then automatically you will say, oh, it's the will of the Supreme Lord that prevails. So that realization can do anything for you. Even without, that's why I said he is karmadhyaksha, he has total discretion over when to give the fruit of which karma. So you just surrender. Once you surrender, it is his duty, but surrender not by words, but you have to really do it from within. And there are several degrees or several layers. So how many, to what degree you have surrendered, only you can know and God can know. There is no physical measuring scale to measure how far your property has gone.
And the very last question is this: if one knowingly or unknowingly commits papa karma after prapatti, then isn't it that the prayashchitta for that is simply to remember the time when one has performed prapatti? Yes.
There are several statements in our scriptures that say so. But once again, you have to have total faith in that, what we call as atonement in English. Prayashchitta is generally mentioned as atonement in English. So you have to do it with with a huge amount of faith. So that's why we say Shraddha or faith is the most important thing in all these things. Then you may overcome it also. There is nothing to prevent you from overcoming the fruits of the sin that you may have knowingly or unknowingly committed if you perform it properly.
Thank you very much, Jai Shriman Narayana.
So Swami, so I was just saying that in Mukunda Mala, King Kulashekara Alwar, he talks about taking medicine. Some people take medicine, some people wear gems, some people are also getting certain mantras from people to affect themselves.
That is it's a very interesting thing. Nobody has analyzed it in such a way. So he says there are three things that there were three things that were performed: Mani, Mantra, and Oshadhi. Mani is having a particular gem. So we can talk about it in Nyaya Shastra also, an example is given. So that gem, when it used to be worn, many times it would not, a person can even walk into the fire physically while wearing such a gem. So it's known as some Chandrakanta Mani or something like that. Then mantras we know, and then Oshadhi are this, what is that? Medicinal plants. So the Buddhists and the Jains are experts in these Mani Mantra Oshadhis. And they used to take people for a ride using these Mani Mantra Oshadhis by showing some magic and things like that. So Kulashekara Anwar says, don't fall for these things, because the ultimate Mani is the Gopala Chudamani or the Lord Krishna himself. The ultimate mantra is Lord, the mantra of the Narayana mantra or the Ashtakshara Maha mantra. And ultimate Oshadhi is Lord himself. Let's say, Bhaktapaya Bhujangagaruramanihi, he says, Vyamoha Prashamosharam Muni Manovritti Pravritti. Very, very beautiful shlokas. And Bhaktapaya, that is Mani, and then mantra, Shatruchedeka mantram Sakalam Upanishadvakya Sampodya mantram Samsarottara mantram Samupatitatamas Sanghaniryana mantram Sarvaishwaryeika mantram Yasana Bhujaga Santashta Santrana mantram Dihve Shri Krishna mantram Japajapa Satatam Janmasapalya mantram. So he actually says, don't believe in other manis, other mantras and other oshadhis. Everything is Lord Krishna only. So that is why he has, one after the other, he has mentioned his Mani, Mantra and Oshadhi. It was very beautifully explained to me by my Acharya once. So don't fall for the mantras, Manis and Oshadhis. The magics shown by these, by the Buddhists and others. Even in our land today, there are some magics that are performed using these things. Some of them, the magics work, and sometimes it doesn't work. But don't fall for these. Ultimately, everything is Lord himself. But good question, good observation.
So is there a commentary on Mukunda Mala that explains all these things? Or
Well, I have not come across any authentic commentary or any commentary that is very much praised. But I don't know. I have to find out. It's you may find out and let me know, or even I'll ask with somebody. So thank you very much. Nice discussion. Ramanujaytyesha chatura chaturakshari kamavastham prapadyante jantavo hantamadrisha punyam bhoja vikasaya papadhvan takshayaya cha Shriman avirabhut bhumo Ramanujadivakaraha Krikrita virinchari jagankushe bhutayah Ramadyapadam bhoja samashrena shalinaha.